is Mike Phelan with Dread Central, and today I am joined by Mr. Brad Jones, who you may also recognize as the Cinema Snob. A few months ago, we interviewed Doug. You can check out the links below for our interview back when he was working on Jesus Bro. But now he's working on another project, a project called Shot on Shittio. So, Brad, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this movie kind of our day the clown cried, honestly. Not in that it's plot wise it's nothing like that, don't get me wrong. But this movie was made like 4 years ago. And it turned into a release nightmare. Man, this is just going to be one of those movies where it's like the backstory and everything is probably going to be mostly what's talked about with it. This was Shot on Shittio is a project that I directed or started directing it in 2013, and it was supposed to be this quick, fun little movie that was just an homage to 80s shot on VHS movies. And the whole movie is shot on an old VHS camera. The movie is shot on VHS tapes, and it's an anthology horror comedy with one part about a killer wheelchair, another part about rape squirrels, and another part about a director who goes insane because he has to cut his movie to a PG-13. So it was this movie that I made, and again, it was supposed to be quick, but a couple of things happened. One thing in particular was we lost some time due to extreme weather we had, and then our lead actor was fired. Our lead actor in the movie was fired with about 95% of his scenes shot, so that was good. But then it kind of turned into this thing where we didn't think we could legally release it because of the issues with the actor and everything. So we had kind of thought like, well, okay, this will just be our movie that only like 6 of us have seen because we can't release it. So it's like this will get brought up a lot at different conventions and things that we're doing. But as it turns out, we actually can release it, but there's still some fine-tuning and things that have to be done with it. So, yeah, at some point you'll see our shot on VHS horror film.
For the genre known as Shot on Shittio, what are some other movies that the audience may have seen that fall into that category?
Oh, gosh, like Wood Chipper Massacre is a fun one. 555, the Savage Vengeance, that was a shot on VHS one. There's Crazy Fat Ethel too. You could find a lot of them back in the 80s, and they'd be a unique experience. Something like Las Vegas Bloodbath, where about the first 3/4 of the movie are just some girls sitting around watching wrestling and eating pizza. Then all of a sudden a guy comes in and kills them. They have a charm that's unique and all their own. And as someone who in my teenage years made short little movies with my friends with our own VHS camera, it's like I can, good or bad, I can relate to some of these movies. I can tell that they're having a good time making them. And they'd be just outlandish, you know, man. There's one that is about a killer wheelchair. It's like a Hell Roller or something like that. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do with Shot on Shittio, which was to kind of recreate some of the charm of those movies and really just kind of make one, you know what I mean? Like, not like, yeah, it is a horror comedy, but so were a lot of those. Like Wood Chipper Massacre is definitely a horror comedy. That's what I wanted to do here. I wanted to really just kind of recreate the feel of those movies and genuinely make one of my own.
Is Shot on Shittio self-aware?
I mean, no, yes and no. Not to the point where it's talking down to the genre, and not to the point to where it's coming from a cynical place or a place of hatred or anything like that. It's not that. It is because some of these were genuinely horror comedies. Again, like Wood Chipper Massacre. That's what I wanted to do here. I did want to genuinely make a shot on Shitio movie. So there's not stuff in there like intentional mistakes. You know what I mean? Like intentional goofs, how sometimes you'll see a movie where they will like intentionally put like a boom mic in the shot or something like that, to where it's like straight up parody. Not that and I've seen movies do that well, certainly, but that's not really what I wanted to do here. I wanted to just kind of genuinely make one of these movies. So any flaw that's kind of in the film it's just genuinely there, honestly. The closest we come to being all out parody in the movie is the second part of it has intentionally bad dubbing, like Zombie 90, the movie Zombie 90, that has dubbing to it that doesn't really fit a lot of the characters. But even in Zombie 90, that seems like it's intentional. Like you'll have like a really skinny lead character, but the voice sounds all deep like this. We kind of recreate that in the second part of the movie. That's the closest that it comes to being straight up parody. But even then, even Zombie 90, it was like, you are kind of intentionally trying to be funny there. So again, it's just it is a love letter to these movies.
Since you're shooting this with a VHS camera, that sounds like it's hell in the editing department. How did you overcome that challenge?
Not really. It's not that much different than how I edit normally, because I'm not editing it using like my two VCRs hooked up together, which I've done that before. I did that in like high school and out of high school too. This one, it's shot on VHS tapes, but the footage is all uploaded onto my computer, and I can use the same software to edit this that I do when I edit an episode of my show, The Cinema Snob, or whenever I edit anything else I'm doing. I'm still able to use the same software, so that's not hard.
Can you talk about what led up to the lead actor being let go?
Yeah, sure. Like, so the lead actor in the film, how do I put this? Okay, the lead actor in the movie had done a number of projects with us before. He was actually in every single movie that I directed, and he was a main supporting feature in some of my shows, like midnight screenings, and he was a supporting character in the Cinema Snob movie and things like that. There was some drama that went on behind the scenes, and it involved. All right, let me skim around this. It involved a girl. I'll say that. It involved a girl, and it involved some treachery in that regard. There were some. This is such a douchey term, but it's like there were some bro code things that were violated there. So he was fired. He was definitely 100% fired. And once he was, it was a sigh of relief from myself and every other person involved in our website and on our company. There was a lot of BS that we had to go through because of this particular person. So once the final straw broke the camel's back, we were like, yeah, good riddance. Even though that put us in this whole situation with shot on Shitio, including a couple of scenes of his that hadn't been shot yet. It was worth it not to have that toxic presence around anymore.
Did you at least get a good performance out of this actor for the 90% of the movie that you did shoot?
No, absolutely. He's very funny in the movie, and there was a reason why he was involved in a number of our projects, whether it was every single movie we'd done or a lot of the shows that we had done, like midnight screenings where we just review new movies while sitting in a car after the preview screenings. He was funny. He was a good actor, a very, very good actor. I did a 80s thriller, like back in 2007 called Midnight Heat, and he's the lead, and he's very good in it. So, yeah, in that regard, it is a very, very, very funny performance.
Are you going to complete the remaining percentage that's left undone, or are you going to release it as is?
Oh no, it was worked around to the part that he hadn't filmed was rewritten. It was rewritten to account for his absence in this one particular scene, and it's silly in the way that it's rewritten and explained, but the whole movie is silly, so it kind of does fit along with the tone that the movie was set. It's not really out of character for the film necessarily. In one scene he's replaced by a different actor, and it is written to kind of explain that.
Since it's shot on Shidio and you're trying to recapture that feeling of a shot on Shidio, is it easier to set up your shots because you know you're following this kind of home movie-like projection, or do you actually have to sit and figure out exactly how you want your camera angles to be when shooting something like this?
No, it's sort of like, all right, so this scene takes place in this room. I need you saying this line, so I'm going to get a close up of you saying this line, and like maybe I'll need a wider angle, and all right, I'll get it from this wider angle. It just whatever felt natural. Honestly, that's not that much different from how I usually direct something. I direct really micro-budgeted movies, so even ones that aren't really shot using a VHS camera, I'm a pretty quick director. I'm like, like, good, this shot works, let's move on to the next one. They require very little setup, very little crew, and that's when I'm directing. Now, the bigger budgeted stuff, that's a different story. Like when it's like Jesus Bro and it's Ryan Mitchell-y directing it, that is definitely shot like a bigger budgeted professional independent film. I mean, whenever I've directed something, it's been very, 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 very low budget, and it usually is just like a very minor crew and someone just holding the camera. And that is kind of the case with shot on Shidio as well. The only difference is like, okay, we're using a VHS camera this time.
Where would you say shot on Shidio ranks in the films that you've made?
Well, I haven't seen it in a while, and even then, it's not in a finished cut right now. There is still a couple things that need to be shot for it. There is still some things that have to be added. So I don't know. I haven't really seen a final version of it. I mean, from what I've seen of it so far, it's certainly not anything dramatic like some of the more serious stuff I've done, like a movie I did called Midnight Heat, and I did an exploitation film about snuff films called Cheap. It definitely feels like it's one of our old party movies. Like we used to make a lot of like really schlocky stuff when we were younger, just so we could kind of put on at parties and like have a drink and have a good time watching us make fools out of ourselves. This kind of feels like it's a throwback to that. In that regard, it's like, this movie does have a lot of charm to it. It's different. It's different than the other movies I've done before. It's it's certainly zanier. I'll give it that. No other movie I've done before has talking rape squirrels in it.
Do you have an active shooting schedule that you're working towards to finish it, or is it still in limbo?
I'm hoping I can finish it in May. Now that we've gotten Jesus Bro released and everything, I'm trying to set aside about a week's worth of shooting in May to get it 100% shot, like all the remaining bits and everything, and then I can take some time to get it edited and everything. So I'm crossing my fingers that it can have like a June release. Hopefully, my goal is June to have this released.
Will this be seeing a physical release or a video on demand release?
Well, at first, it'll have a Vimeo on demand release like Jesus Bro did. We'll have it on DVD as well, but to start out with, it's going to be Vimeo on demand. And yeah, there'll probably be like a limited VHS release of it in the future, like well off in the future. And again, like having a DVD for it in the future as well. But to start out with, Vimeo on demand.
When creating a VHS release for, would you be just doing that in-house, or are there companies that still make VHS tapes for
there's companies that'll still. I was in talks with one like 4 years ago when we started this movie. Because again, this movie was only supposed to take like a month or so to make, and 4 years later, for this, of all movies, the talking rape squirrel movie is the one that's like, wow, that took 4 years. Back then, when we first started it, we were in talks with a company that does put out limited VHS releases, and I'm going to have to get in touch with them again. But I know that there are still companies that'll do that, that'll manufacture like a handful of VHSs.
Do you have any other films planned for after you have this one complete after such a lengthy production period?
Yes, come summertime, summer or early fall, I'm going to be directing a drama that takes place in a disco club in the late 70s. I've been wanting to do that project for quite a while. That'll be something that I've written and directed myself. In terms of the next big project, like Jesus Bro, I wrote satire of like Hallmark Christmas movies. That's like a comedy horror film. We're looking at 2018 for that movie. So there's going to be some smaller stuff in between. There's going to be my disco film, and there's going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, shot on Shitty-O.
Will you be opening up another GoFundMe for your next big project?
Most likely. It all depends on how good Shot on Shitty-O does, and also the disco movie. But yeah, most likely we'll be doing a little bit of crowdsourcing again for the Christmas movie.
All right, Brad. Well, thank you very much for taking your time with Dread Central to talk about Shot on Shitty-O, and we hope to see it very soon, and we hope to do a review of it, and hopefully have you on again to talk about the audience reaction to it.
Well, thank you. Anytime, absolutely anytime.
And where can people go to find more of you? More illicit pictures and whatnot.
That's probably out there somewhere too. You can find me at my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/stonedgremlinproductions. Also my website, which is thecinemasnob.com.
All right, Brett. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you again soon.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.